Warning, this podcast is intended for adult audiences only. We discuss sex and sexual relationships in a frank and open manner. We are not marriage and family therapists or sex therapists, and the content provided is for informational and entertainment purposes only. If you are under the age of 18 or do not wish to hear explicit discussions about sex and sexual relationships or adult language, then you shouldn't listen any further. But if you are, well, grab your seat, grab a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of The Accidental Swingers.
Wow.
Wow, that is such an old man move.
Damn.
Holy shit.
I think I'm officially old now.
Oh, fuck. Wow. You tried to put glasses on top of your
glasses.
glasses that you were already wearing on your face.
Holy shit.
Damn, babe.
All right,
Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, I was going to say, mark the date, mark the time. I'm officially old.
You mark the date and the time. You're the one that controls all that stuff.
Damn. Wow.
That was awesome, and I'm so glad that I was
you
here.
got to witness it?
I was like, what the fuck is he doing? Does he think that's going to make it 4.0 if he puts two 2.0s together?
Actually, two 1.75s, and so...
Oh,
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Right?
It doesn't double it. I don't think it might work that way. Maybe it does. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I almost found out until I realized, holy fuck, what am I doing?
I have glasses on.
We're Myrina and Tristan, a longtime married professional couple in our early 50s. Kids, dogs, cats, vacations at Disney World, you know, the whole 9 yards. But in 2018, we decided, after years of kind of talking about it, to live a non-monogamous lifestyle.
But it wasn't that easy, was it?
No, it wasn't.
You see, we sort of accidentally started swinging.
Yeah, we did. And we found our story so humorous and fun that we decided to record and chronicle our journey for ourselves so that we could go back and listen to our adventures.
And boy, have we had some adventures.
Yeah, we have.
In the last few years, we've found that we really love this lifestyle that we've chosen. And it's not only strengthened our marriage, but it's also helped us to grow both as individuals and as a couple.
And as we began to go back and listen to our recordings, we realized that others may really benefit from listening to and hearing about our mistakes and our very candid discussions about what we were going through and experiencing.
We talk about and we laugh about.
We laugh a lot.
Yeah, we do. We laugh about the mistakes that we've made, the crazy things that we've experienced, and the exciting things that have happened to us.
But we also talk very openly and honestly about the tough times, the emotional landmines and pitfalls we had to navigate, some rougher than others.
So we thought that we'd create this podcast so that others may gain some perspective or some insight and maybe even learn a lesson or two about what to do and what not to do in their own journeys.
And basically, you'll join us on our journey in real time because we will include excerpts of our recordings. Some will be quick outtakes, others will be longer conversations about what we were going through or experiencing at that time.
So grab a drink.
Or settle into your seat if you're driving.
Relax, sit back, and join us as we bumble our way through this adventure that we call
The Lifestyle. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome.
Hey, everybody. Welcome.
This is episode 33 of the Accidental Swingers podcast.
Yeah, that's amazing because we only released episode 32 about 3 weeks ago.
I know.
Yeah, this is a record for us, I think.
No, it's not. We did one. We used to do them like every 3-ish weeks for a little while.
I don't know.
Well, there's no rhyme or reason that is true.
In any case, we're back.
Yay, us.
Yes, yay, us.
Yay, us. So it's exciting to
It's very exciting.
Yes, to get them out a little bit faster, but it takes time.
It does.
Yeah. But this is such a great episode. And the reason that we're able to get it out a little bit sooner is because actually I didn't need a ton of editing. So that's really cool. Mm-hmm. So last episode was our recap of our first year in the lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And 2 weekends ago.
Yeah, the weekend before last.
We went to Caliente.
What? Yeah,
Such
we spent a 3-day weekend there.
We did. It was amazing.
We had such a fun time.
Oh my gosh, it was such a well-needed, well-deserved 3-day
absolutely.
weekend.
And so our two of our favorite bands were playing that weekend.
Yeah.
So that Friday night was No Filter.
Well, that's because it was Caliente's 18th
That's
birthday.
right. That's right. Yeah, it was a huge weekend. It was the 18th birthday of Caliente.
Right.
No Filter played on Friday night. TL Jenkins played on Saturday night. We love both of those bands. Right. They're amazing. And,
as a matter
and guess what?
I was just going to say, as a matter of fact, we will miss them though.
Yeah.
They are playing again. If you guys haven't had this opportunity and you live in the area or you're thinking about coming to Caliente, Memorial Day weekend is one of their biggest weekends. Mm-hmm. And they have planned, unfortunately, we won't be there, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't go. You should totally go. They have planned an amazing event this year. They have stuff going on all 3 days. So like No Filter is playing on Friday night.
Yeah, which is, I guess, that's the 27th.
And No Filter is amazing. They're just a great band. We actually heard them at a vanilla bar. Mm-hmm. We call it
We've heard them at a couple of vanilla bars.
We have. We've gone a couple places to see them on purpose before COVID. We just enjoy them so much. They put on an amazing show. They are just such a talented group. So they play on Friday night, and then TL Jenkins.
Well, and then Saturday night.
Oh, that's right.
Is DJ Tatiana, who is, we've not seen before, but we've heard amazing things. She's a DJ from Spain and very well regarded in the DJ community.
And I guess they love her because I think this is the third or fourth time that they've had her back
this year.
Yes, they think the very first time was a couple months ago, and she's already coming back a couple times.
Yeah,
so that's awesome. No, that's awesome. I'm disappointed that we won't be able to see her because we've heard good things about her. And yes, and then
TL Jenkins will be there Sunday night.
And he puts on a hell of a show.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
So we saw him the weekend before last.
Yes.
Just amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So this weekend, and the other thing I was going to say too, so when you go, we did this the other time we were there, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, the trip before last. I was going to say this. If you are planning on going to Caliente for Memorial Day weekend, which you totally should, at least try it out. It'll be awesome. It'll be so fun. They will probably be sold out.
As far as rooms to stay.
Yes, as far as rooms to stay. Yeah, you can go anytime. But I wanted to tell you, I don't know if we talked about it in our other podcast. I think we did, but I wanted to remind everybody, and we're doing this, not this Saturday actually, but next Saturday when we are going to Caliente, which will be the 30th.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go on the 30th, we're going to be there, and we're just going for the day. And we wear nothing during the day. I say we take our clothes off when we get there. But we take our evening clothes with us. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to it, it was the one where our listener winners came. And that was when we changed our clothes there and totally got ready for the evening right there on property. Mm-hmm. So it was really cool. It was really easy. And we're going to do that, like I said, next Saturday because we don't have to go home and change. We just take everything with us. So they have showers there. We just took all of our toiletries. They have mirrors and plugs and everything that you wanted. If you ladies need to get ready, it's really, really easy and awesome. And they have lockers too.
Yeah. So it's a perfect daycation.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. It's the perfect daycation. Just go for the entire day, be naked all day, be slutty club wear at night, dance it off, and then take it all off again and go to the playrooms or the conversation pool or the hot tub or whatever. So yeah. So that's awesome. Oh, and we talked about this too, because when we were thinking about going, we weren't sure that we were going to be able to get a room the last time. So we checked. And because I don't want to have to drive home a long distance way if we've been out all this time. So normally one of us is okay to drive, but it's still a long drive that we don't want to have to go home at 2:00 in the morning. So we looked, and there are 4 or 5 hotels, I think within like a 6-mile radius. Yeah. Either east or west, basically, kind of where Caliente is. So if that's another thing you can do is go get a hotel that's close by. I prefer, honestly, if we did that, I would still stay on property all day. Oh,
absolutely.
It's a pain to leave because you're just feeling the vibe and you are totally in it. And the vibe of taking a shower there and getting ready there was almost just as fun as everything else.
Yeah.
And then we just went upstairs, ate dinner.
Did we talk about that in a regular episode or an after party?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Our 6-way shower?
It was with with our listeners. So
where we gave with the VIP experience, the winner of our 200,000 download.
I'm pretty sure that was in the regular episode.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We talked about that weekend.
Well, in any case, it was a fun shower.
Yeah,
and so we had a great time.
I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. Oh yeah, so I would have no reservations in doing the matter of fact, like I said, we're doing that.
When we were there, the weekend before last, Crimson and I did that. You and Phoenix showered and got ready in the casita.
Yeah,
and
we
then
split. We divided and conquered.
Yeah, we stayed because we didn't want to have to all cram into it.
So, we were on a time crunch. So
we were.
You two go this way, we'll go that way. Everybody showers, gets ready. Yeah,
but it's a lot of fun.
It is.
It's just as an element of staying there and being able to let's just get ready here.
But I think it's the perfect. I am going to advocate us doing that much more often because I love the daycation piece of that. I love being able to go there in the morning and then not have to worry about it and get showered and ready to go and be able to be at the club right there.
Right.
It's perfect. It's perfect. So anyways, so that's kind of what we did. So this last time, although we were staying on property. So that was the 18th birthday celebration weekend. And it was really fun.
Oh my God.
We missed the cupcakes though.
We did.
People were carrying them around and I'm like, where do we get those cupcakes? But I wasn't getting my ass out of the pool. So I was like, I guess I don't get a cupcake. So, oh well, no one brought me a cupcake. But anyways, so we were there and again, met this amazing couple. I think is there anything that we really need to do to set it up?
I don't think
we
so.
Just play it,
yeah, I think
we
so.
We
met them, and then they invited us to go and record at their home,
right?
Because they live there at Caliente.
Right. We asked them if we could interview them, and they said yes. Why don't you come to our house so we don't have to worry about trying to do it?
Yeah. So we showed up, and so Myrina and I and Crimson and Phoenix were all down around the pools naked, and it was time to go and meet this couple, Scott and Michelle, to do their interview. So we got dressed, to
Which
go
is
over
what you would do,
right. So we got there, and they opened the door. They're naked. We're clothed. And we thought, oh, well, we were going to be clothed for the interview. And they said, well, we're going to be naked for the interview. But then they started to get dressed. And then we're like, let's get undressed. And so we wound up, and so it wasn't just them, but their lady friend was there as well. Mm-hmm. So it wound up being, so I say in this audio that it's a 5-way naked podcast. It was actually a 7-way naked podcast. I was just thinking about the 5 of us around the table, I suppose. I don't know why.
Right.
But this was a first for us.
It was. And you actually, in the audio, you say, we've recorded naked before. We have not recorded naked before, have we? I don't remember ever. We recorded at Caliente, and we you were naked.
One of the one of the after parties, I was naked. And then also in the episode that we talked about, I think episode 29, when the 4 of us recorded late at night, I was naked.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much always naked.
Yeah, when you're there. Yeah. Yes, that's true. But this was our first time like in public, recording publicly, so to speak, even though we were in their home. Other people, because the other times it was just us. So, yeah. And not everybody was naked. But yeah, so I'm like, we've never recorded naked before. But yeah, you have.
Yeah. I do everything naked.
I usually always wear my sarong or something like that, yes. But in this particular instance, we were like, all right, everybody drop trowel.
Right.
So this interview is great. It's amazing. This couple, they've been in the lifestyle for 7 years. They've been together 7.5 years. They've basically been in the lifestyle the entire time. They're married. They had such an amazing outlook and ideas and thoughts about the lifestyle and their experiences. And they were so open and honest and amazingly raw about still some of the challenges that they face and the ways that they've overcome some of the things. And so we just wanted to play basically this entire interview in its entirety.
Yeah.
So we're going to stop talking. We're going to let it roll. Instead of breaking it into 2 parts, we're just going to let it do its thing and we'll wrap it up at the end. But it's an amazing interview. So we hope that you guys enjoy this interview with us and Scott and Michelle. Well, hey, everyone. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
This is Myrina and Tristan. You guys are listening to the Accidental Swingers podcast. And what are we doing today, babe?
We're having a great time. Let me just cut to the chase. We're having a great time today. We've been having a great time all weekend.
We have been having a great time.
Yeah. So where are we?
We are at Guess.
Wait,
let's see if anybody can guess where we are. We're close to home.
We're close to home, yes.
But we're not at home.
It's actually our home away from home.
Yep. Our happy place.
It is.
And we're naked.
We are naked.
So there's your top 3 clues.
Myrina and I have recorded naked before, but we've never actually now we have like a 5-way naked conversation going on. Yeah. So this is momentous.
It is. It's our most nakedness. It's like a group orgy podcast episode.
That's right.
Recording.
Yeah.
Or people would have said earlier, I'm sorry I'm not bigger.
Yeah. And I said, you're just fine.
Oh, thank you.
We're popping the cherry.
Speaking of which, let's introduce. So we're at Caliente.
Yes, we are at Caliente.
We're at Caliente, and we decided to come and have a wonderful weekend. And so what we're trying to do, as you guys know, when we come to Caliente, we are seeing if there are couples that we can interview. And we were introduced to Michelle and Scott that live here on property. So you guys are graciously invited into us into your home. Thank you for having us.
Welcome to the G-Spot.
It's nice to meet you guys.
We love it at the G-Spot.
Yeah, so far so good.
We've only been here for 20 minutes, but yeah.
Yeah, no. You're going to
far.
have to have some B-roll of this, where you put the pre-talk.
Right, yes, we do that too. Absolutely. So why are we at the G-Spot, Michelle?
Because it's the best place on earth.
Absolutely, and you're here.
I'm here, and my hubby.
Yeah, so the 4 of us, so Phoenix and Crimson are here as well. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
And we came for the weekend. It was actually Caliente's 18th birthday party weekend. So
she's legal.
Yeah, finally. Well, yeah.
She's of legal age now.
She's been doing a lot of things before that. But there was a big birthday celebration, and one of our favorite bands, No Filter, played on Friday night, so we decided to come and make a weekend out of it. And we had
And another favorite, T.L. Jenkins, last night was amazing.
a new favorite, new favorite. So he was really good. The weather has been gorgeous, but cold for naked people.
It was a little chilly Friday and Saturday.
It's cold.
Now today is amazing.
And my voice is raspy. That's
Yeah,
why I
mine as
decided
well.
to tell everybody why.
But positive for me because I like big nipples. You know,
Oh yeah.
they tend to come out when it's colder.
He likes
you
them
do?
hard when it's cold.
I'm pretty sure we're all
Oh,
on
you
board
like
with that.
harder, not necessarily bigger. You mean harder?
Well, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yes and yes.
All right. So boys are boys, and we know that. Thanks for clearing that
Yeah,
up.
can't get around that.
No, but it's been really fun. And then they're also having a car show this weekend. We didn't make it down there yet, but
we
we're
will.
going to stop by. Yeah, so it's a car show that they're just having on property, and all these fully clothed people are walking around the pool area, and we're like, "Oh, car show guest, car show guest, car show guest." Yeah,
You know what?
It's
It
like-
only lasts about an hour and a half, and then you walk back to the pool, and it's like, well, hello, America.
there you are. Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah. So that's going on. So this is all big part of their big birthday celebration. So it's been really, really great. And and my voice is super raspy because we had to yell a lot to try and talk to each other through both the bands and all the talking we've done this weekend. But
And
it's
the
been super
playroom
fun.
activities as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Well, there's karaoke
Got
this
a little,
afternoon,
like-
so you can do some Stevie Nicks or
Think
something.
I should?
Yeah.
All right.
I love
That's
it.
our favorite. It is Sunday karaoke is our favorite.
Oh, all right. Yeah, well, we're here. We've heard that a couple of times. So anyways, welcome you guys, kind of explaining where we were and what we're doing. Scott and Michelle honored us with an interview. So as typical for us, kind of what we do is we just like to talk to the couples and get a little bit about your story, find out how long you've been in the lifestyle, how you got together, whatever you would like to share. We will tell you, a lot of our listeners are relatively new into the lifestyle, or they are thinking about going into the lifestyle, which is really nice. And we talk a lot about Caliente because of just from the fact that it's such a great place to come and be a voyeur or slash
you can dip
exhibitionist. You
your
don't have to
toe
do
into
anything
the extent that you want to.
and still be in the super sexy environment. So those are the folks that kind of listen to our podcast. So we like to talk a lot about beginning stories and challenges or things that you faced. And we were just talking about some accidentally before we started recording. And Tristan's like, "Can we not talk? We should be recording this." And I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to ban everybody from talking right now." So tell us a little bit about yourselves.
You love to tell the story. Go ahead. I'll just interject every once in a while.
Okay.
That's kind of how we work too.
Talker. Yeah. So I actually met Scott of all things on Tinder. Oddly enough, we have lived in the same city our entire life, and at one point, as adults, lived in the same neighborhood, but never knew each other.
Wow.
And we swiped right, and it was go from there. We had our first date, and I think that was kind of it for us, you know. So further into our relationship, he was coming
Like
over.
6 weeks.
About 6 weeks, that's true. He was
So
coming
quickly
over.
further into it.
Yeah. And I was highly nervous because I have been bisexual my whole life and never been kind of allowed to because of the family and then the first marriage. So I had decided I was never getting married again. And so he was going out with some friends of mine. And I said, so just so you know, these girls are, some are lesbian, some are bisexual. And it's not like we get drunk and kiss. It's like we get drunk and throw down. And I was like, I was very nervous about it, because we just come from different backgrounds. I was more of the wild child, and he was very educated and smart. And he's my nerd. I love him, but he's sexy. So I just, I was very nervous about it. So I was kind of telling him what was going to happen. And he was like, it's no big deal. I was like, every guy says that. And then I never see him again. And I was like, here we go. So we went out, we had a great time, and that's exactly what happened. And we got back, and, I was very nervous about it. I was like, so is that okay with you? How's that feel? And he was like, it was fucking awesome. And I was like, cool. So we got to discussing some things later that night, and he asked me if I'd ever heard of the lifestyle. And I was like, the what? And he's like, the lifestyle. I said, no, not a clue. And he can tell you how he got into it if you want to interject now, later.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So he was telling me all about it, and, further down the line, asking me about if I would get married. And I said, I cannot get married. I cannot have sex with the same person for the rest of my life. That's why infidelity happens. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to cheat on you. I don't want that to be a thing. So the lifestyle came up again and we talked about it. And so he was telling me that he had been in it previously. And he said that you come in, you meet people, it's totally okay. And breaking down the whole lifestyle for me, how it works. And, you know, we've come across different things. Like we have a theory on swingers. And so we were talking about all of that. And basically we wrapped up the conversation and I was like, so you want to marry me? And I can sleep with girls and sometimes they're husbands. And if there's a connection, then we're all just going to like get it on and you're not going to divorce me. And he was like, nope. I was like, where do I stop? Pass the pen. I do.
Yeah, for me, I actually found myself very early on in my relationship with Michelle fantasizing about her. Like she was my center point for fantasizing instead of some supermodel or something. And so, you know, whenever I wanted to get in the mood, so to speak, I would envision her in multiple scenarios. And I discovered that I really had a desire to see her experiencing pleasure, whether I was giving it to her, someone else was giving it to her. Of course, the bisexual thing opened up the idea of her being with women, her being with men, all sorts of things that spawned from there. So I was very comfortable with it from the beginning. I didn't have that worry about, well, I guess I was a little bit worried about seeing her with other men, but I had been in the lifestyle previously, so I was already experienced enough to know kind of how I would feel in that scenario. You never know how you're going to feel until you get through that first time, right? But I opened up to it, and she didn't jump on immediately. We had a ton of rules to begin with. No kissing. Yeah, that lasted one time.
Scroll. Let me whip the scroll.
Well, one time we tried not kissing. We're like, that sucks.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're going to have to kiss. So,
I was like, that lasted the first round, and I was like, I can't even. I have to kiss this person to know if I'm
Right.
attracted to them.
That's right. There's a lot that
So I
goes on
marked
with
off
those
the first
lips.
rule. That one's going.
so now we've gone through multiple stages that we can talk about if you like, but we've gotten to this point now where we're very comfortable. We really don't have rules. It's kind of a cool thing for us. We decided that rules were a control, and you know, I didn't like being controlled. She didn't like being controlled. But what we do is we express to each other, you know, what makes us uncomfortable. Look, you know, I'm not gonna say you can't do this, but if you do this, then it's gonna hurt me. And so that leaves the decision to me whether or not to do it. Not breaking a rule, not breaking a control, but I'm making a decision not to do something that would hurt her. And that has much more meaning.
Wow, that's very powerful.
Yeah. So we did. We decided early on, I think more closely to when we got here, when we moved here. So a little background. I tell people all the time, I live here, work here, play here. You know, my mom's like, do you ever leave? I'm like, no.
Why would you?
My groceries are delivered. My booze are delivered. Our medications are delivered. Right. Instacart is the right. And I always warn them in the notes, you're coming to a nudist resort and we don't wear clothes. So just prepare yourself when you come through the gates. It's booties everywhere. But yeah, we opened that up here, and it's been a newer thing for us. But I think it's huge when you are in that relationship where you have a full trust and a full love and a full respect for your partner. I mean, it freaked me out at first. He's like, how do you feel about this no rules thing? And I'm like, you're tripping. I'm like, not going to happen. But I opened my mind to it. And so that's where we are now. We've decided that we're not going to lay rules down. We're just going to talk about what hurts us. And if you choose to hurt me, then we're going to have to deal with that on the back end.
I'll tell you one of the other things that I did early on. Oh, shoot. Whoops. Leave it to me to make a mess already. One of the things that we did early on to facilitate this was we had an acknowledged double standard, meaning that she had rules for me that I didn't impose on her. And I did that because I know that, fairness doesn't necessarily mean equality, right? It means that we're each compromising about the same amount, right, in order to enable this kind of experience. So I was much more free with her, allowing her to be with people than she was comfortable with me. And so we don't have to have the same concerns, right? What I do that would hurt her may not hurt me.
That's a really, really, really good point. And I don't know that we really have talked about that in those terms about how, and I can totally see why that would happen because, Scott, you were saying that you were in the lifestyle beforehand. So you already had some experience and some exposure knowing maybe how you would react in certain situations, but Michelle, you didn't know anything. Mm-mm. So,
well, and I think honestly, that's the hardest thing for women. I think it's more of a struggle for the women than it is the men. Men are usually horn dogs and they're open to whatever. But I think for women, it's really hard to separate emotion and sex and to undo in your brain everything you've been taught from society your whole life. And it's funny now because we'll get into conversations with people in the vanilla world, and Moses had like 12 wives. I mean, how's this really any different, you know? But it was very hard for me to untrain my brain. I was a private Christian school girl. I was deep rooted in the church, but I was horny and I hated it because, you know, it was like I felt like all these restrictions were on me. And he's accurate. It's definitely different for me. There are things like I don't enjoy him just going off and playing because I think the hardest thing for a female is what your mind does to you with what you can't see. You know,
The story you tell yourself.
Yeah, and he'll come back and I'll be like, "How was it?" And he'll be like, "Meh." And I'm like, "You're such a liar. It was probably amazing. And you just don't want to tell me." And, you know, but that's what happens. And it gets to a point, I think, where I've done really well, for the most part, retraining my brain and accepting that what makes me the happiest is to have a happy husband. You know, they say happy wife, happy life. But I really think it should be the same for your husband. It took a lot for me. We've been through some ups and downs in it. And
Yeah, I always tell people you're going to make mistakes, right? If you're a new couple to the lifestyle, I tell them, look, you're going to make mistakes. The key is that you talk about those mistakes until you've forgiven each other and then take forward something that prevents you from doing it again. If you continue to exploit that same forgiveness for the same mistake, then you're taking advantage, right? And that's no good. But you learn as you go. For me, like, for example, she talked about her head going crazy on her. I actually enjoy that, right? I learned that I enjoy her going off and coming home and telling me all about it while we fornicate.
Like you revisit.
Yeah.
Right.
Did he do this?
Well, and
Yeah,
know
that's
what?
very
That was
exciting.
this. That's a good point, though. The one thing that Scott and I always do is what we call reconnecting. So anytime we play, whether we're playing together with another couple or just a unicorn or separate play, whatever, it's not really a rule, we enjoy it, but it is a standard for us that we always reconnect at the end of the night. If we play, we wrap up the evening with each other. It's important to us, and that's just...
Well, at first that started out as sex with each other, but then there have been a couple of times where we're just like too exhausted, but we reconnect
People have worn
mentally.
us out.
Right. Right.
We reconnect with talking.
Yeah.
It's important to us, just that one-on-one time where you really go through what happened, and you don't bring anger into the conversation, and you try to go into it with like a porno mind, you know, where it's like, okay, tell me about it. I'm ready now.
Right,
you know?
right.
And
The
he's
sexy
really good
vibes,
about it. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that as a female is the hardest part, right? You know, when he's like, she came like 12 times. I'm like, yeah. I mean,
That happens all the time.
he real good. No, but you know, it is there are certain things that you don't want to hear, but I think it's very important to hear because it teaches you, how do you feel about that? And it opens up a conversation. We used to go to Desire about 8 times a year. And every morning at breakfast, that was kind of our thing. We would sit down together. We don't ever have breakfast with another couple. And we would just repeat the day before. What happened? Was that okay with you? It was okay with me. And I think that communication is the number one thing that has to occur. If you cannot communicate with each other, then it's going to make the lifestyle really tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, there's so much amazing stuff in there.
I know. So where do we want to circle back
So
to?
I'll start with Scott. And I don't know if you saw me beaming and smiling when you were talking about how much you love Michelle receiving pleasure, whether it's from you or somebody else. And that's me 100%. And
You like watching Michelle have pleasure?
Oh, yeah. Well, I haven't yet, but I suspect that perhaps
show
I
ya.
will.
I'm sure it won't be long.
Oh, that's good. But yeah, I completely 100% can relate to that compersive nature that I completely have, and it sounds like you as well. That's amazing. And the rules thing is that's like right out of our rule book.
Right. Although what I wanted to talk about and circle back, and Michelle, you and I are also a lot in common in the sense that I don't necessarily enjoy seeing Tristan receiving pleasure. I don't get that same that you do from seeing my partner. What we always talk about is if we're all foreplaying together, if we're together with whoever we're with, a lot of times I'll just look over and I just reach out and touch and do hey, is everything, like, it's so awesome that you're having a great time. But I don't like to necessarily sit and watch. So
We've discovered that that has a lot to do with how Michelle feels about the person. Right.
Interesting.
If it's someone that she trusts completely, then it's erotic for her because she's not. There's no threat in the experience to her. Right. Then she can experience it that way. But if she's unsure about the girl I'm with, or doesn't know her, or whatever, then I think it's a bit harder for her.
Well,
That
because
makes a lot of
I
sense.
feel like I have, and I think you would agree, I'm pretty spot on. I've been in hospitality since I was 14 and stopped at 44 when we moved here. We came from Key West. So want to talk about living somewhere where it's all over the place. I
Right.
was like, nope. nope. But we do, that's one of the things, no is no. And we don't have to explain why. Like if he comes across somebody and he's like, and I'm like, fair enough. And then in the end of our evening, we circle back and I'm like, so talk to me about that. And he's like, he just was disrespecting these other women. And he said, I don't want you to be disrespected. It's not a chance I'm going to take. And I'm like, I'll throat punch him. but that's how it is. I mean, it's just, and if I say no, it's no. I have a pretty stellar people read. I can know a lot about a person in the first 10 words that come out of their mouth. And we talk about that a lot. We have a theory. It's just ours. It's not scientific. But we have a theory on swingers in general. I say there's two types of swingers, right? There's the ones that are madly in love with each other. And this is to enhance their relationship. And they trust each other. And everything about it is amazing. And then there's the cheaper to keeper. There's the ones that don't actually like each other, but they can't really divorce because there's kids or money or jobs or businesses, whatever. And so they get into the lifestyle just to sleep with other people so they don't have to do it with each other. And Scott and I are really keyed in on that. We want to be with the people who trust each other, who love each other, because then you eliminate drama, and whether that's together or separate, it's just kind of how we are about people in general, I think. And every now and then we break the rule, but, or, the standard, not the rule, the standard.
Right. There you go.
We break the standard and I'm like, but they hot, and he's like, once. And I'm like, once, let's go.
I think the important thing is that we want to be the people that are enhancing our relationship by doing this, not the people that are going separate ways and not sharing the experience with each other. I mean, it was uncomfortable for her at first. There were a couple of times where she let me go play and I'd come back and I'd say, do you want to hear about it? And she'd say, no, just because she wasn't in the mindset to do that. And that was fine.
And sometimes it was 3 days later. I'm like, okay, tell me about it now.
Right. Right. And I was going to say that's exactly the same because that's another piece of the puzzle where we're the same. Like when we first started playing and we first started going out separately, same thing. He would go out and it'd be like, I'll tell you what you can tell me. So we're going to start off at the 100,000 foot view. Mm-hmm. Did everybody live through dinner and the sex? Okay, good. That may be all I need to know right now. But then later on, then tell me how dinner was like. How did it go? But don't get into specific. I don't need to know how many times she came.
Right.
And then eventually it did go, well, tell me about. No, you can tell me about your whole. And it was very gradual, and it was with the girlfriend at the time, and so I was getting to know her very well, and a lot of that trust and understanding and not being afraid. Because you're right, I think we all have emotions, and everything we talk about all the time, everything's on a spectrum. So I totally agree with your theory on swingers. And then there's some people that, depending on where they are in their relationships too, because did they do something that maybe they were going to be cheaper to keep her, but then it started to enhance their relationship.
Exactly.
And so now they're moving towards we can have it all kind of area. And so I love that theory though. I love that.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think in the beginning for me, it was like, let's find unicorns. I mean, because the lifestyle is amazing, but I have an amazing man who has an amazing package, and he works very well with it. And so for me, it was like he enjoys females and I enjoy females. So I was like, let's just start there. We've done the couple thing in the leading up to that and had a couple of experiences, but then that's kind of where we regrouped. We went back and we did the first girlfriend thing, and she was amazing, such a good person, and we had a great time. And she was our nanny. That's straight out of a porn. Right. But she was. And, and we had it was good. And I think from that point on, I was a little more open to that kind of single play, because I learned to trust him with her. I'd go to work. He's an entrepreneur. He's brilliant. And so he could work from home. And the nanny was there. And I'd call and be like, so I'm bored. What's going on? And he's like, nothing. I'm like, that sucks.
So just to recap, you said I was brilliant, have a big package, and I'm free to play. Ladies?
Yeah. And you can read Scott.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's a stellar review. But to expand on that, I mean, we have been in this now for 7.5 years, pretty much. So we've
known each other 7.5 years.
Yeah, pretty much. And like I said, it's been an evolution. I mean, we had a girlfriend for a few months, and Michelle's had a couple of friends, male friends, for a couple of months each, probably around that period of time. before that ran their course. And, and then we've been in a relationship with a couple. So that's been its own crazy thing.
Yeah, that's a challenge too. I think the couples has been the hardest because you go through 4 levels of emotions, right? I freaked out the first time. She freaked out the second time. Scott was the third, and her husband was like, "We're not doing this anymore." And then 6 weeks later, we were like, "Are you sure?" And we got right back into it.
Right. So the relationships can be rewarding and complicated at the same time, and it's not for everybody. And we still haven't figured out, I don't think, whether a relationship is the right thing for us or being free is the right thing for us. A relationship tends to lock you in. We're not sure if we're ready for that sort of thing.
Yeah, variety is why we do it. But I think for us in this relationship part with the couple it's been good. I mean, we've learned so much about each other through that process. And I'm telling you, it's the fighting what you've been taught your whole life.
Yeah.
It's struggling with what people have told you is wrong, but feels so right.
Yes.
And it has. Like you said, we've done both. We've had a girlfriend and we've been in a couple relationship, and they've both had their ups and downs for sure. I think, again, it circles back to emotions. And I think that I had the first issue. She was second on board. And then I think the boys were like, is this right? Because our women are not. What's going on with our girls? They were very honed in on us. And so I think that it is hard, but when you get there, it's amazing.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's also something we talk about as well. It is something we talk about as well, is that there are so many variations and so many things that you can do and try that this lifestyle just allows that to happen, especially if you're with a partner who is willing to and ready to explore whatever you're willing to do.
Yeah, you can find whatever combination fits and works for you.
I think you have to be open to letting yourself get hurt. I mean, we spent a lot of time, particularly in this couples relationship, trying to prevent ourselves from getting hurt. And we caused our own hurt by doing that because it would cause arguments between us. And we'd have huffs and have to resolve all of that. And I think it's been a relatively recent realization that we need to just be open to letting ourselves make those mistakes, right? Not intentionally making them, but let yourself get hurt. And then if you do get hurt, then okay, we know we're not going to do that anymore. Right. And it's been easier that way.
I would say it's probably been harder for me. And I think it is for most women. And sometimes I still struggle with it. I'm not usually one to meet a stranger and knock it out. We will fantasize. Like, we had a funny story the other day because I never leave the compound. And so I had my groceries delivered and this kid was smoking hot. And I sent Scott a text. I was like, I just invited the Instacart guy back. But, it was one of those. It was fun in the moment. But
she got a 2-word text from me. I'll give you one guess as to what it was. Do it.
I was going to say, okay.
Yeah, girl. Yeah, I know. But, yeah, girl.
Any of those apply.
But, for me, and I think maybe for some women, it's my biggest struggle really the entire time has been that. I don't want to feel like a whore. So for me, it's like if I get to know someone, then I'm like, we're friends. I'm not a whore. And Scott, when we used to go to Mexico all the time, he would just tell people, he's like, do you have your 5 things yet? Because I would tell him, I was like, I feel like I need to know like 5 things about somebody, And he'd swim over. He'd be like, they're married. They have 6 kids. And he was like,
are we good?
Are we good? Yeah. And for me, that wasn't it. It was
they're
just
on vacation in Mexico. They order pina coladas.
Exactly.
And one of the things, and it's odd because most people would find it respectful, but one of the things I hate is if a man goes to my husband and says, can I fuck your wife? Don't ask my husband.
Right.
You talk to me, honey. So the answer is no.
Right.
But that has been my biggest struggle. And that's one thing that I love about, we tell people all the time, we live here, work here, play here. It's one of the things I love about Cali is because it's like a family, even the new people. Like I said, I have 30 years in hospitality. I was a director of countries. I mean, I was done when we moved here. And then it was like, so if I work how many shifts, it's a free membership. And so I got to doing that. And my mom's like, how do you do this? Like, how do you work the front desk? And I'm like, I like to call it prospecting. I see.
Oh my God, she has cracked the code.
Yes,
Holy
right?
shit. The only thing she could do from here is actually work the gate. So that she has first.
I'll be like, can you get out of the car, sir? I need to frisk you. No, but yeah, I do. And it's funny because I'm like, I see everyone that comes in and I see everyone that goes out. And it's funny because I find myself most attracted to the ones that are like, we're new and we're nervous because I feel like Scott and I kind of gravitate to those people sometimes where it's like we just want them to be comfortable, to have somebody they can talk to answer any questions. And Scott ambassadors here, so, and for lack of a better term, it's like It's like the Walmart greeter, except he's there to give people tours and help them kind of understand the layout of the land, because this place is big. And a lot of people come here and they have no idea that there are residents. They're like, is it going to be busy? I'm like, there's 400 of us that live here. It's been easier actually being kind of on the other side of it instead of out in a pool trying to find my way.
That's why we got involved, really, to be honest, is we wanted to be part of the community here. There is a community that resides here.
Right.
And then you have the kind of the transient vacationers and such, and snowbirds that come down every 6 months or so. So we signed up to do this ambassador thing. And then they found out Michelle had all this experience. So they were like, you need to work here. So they brought her in. But I think our nature is that we love this place so much that we want to see it succeed. So anything we can do to hear what's going on and apply whatever skills or knowledge or network we have to help this place succeed, that's why we're working here.
Yeah. You run into some weird things, right? I mean, I can tell you personal experience. I'm out on a raft just floating around. I run into this dude. I turn around and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And it's my brother.
No way.
Not his wife that he was lip locked to. No. So I look around the corner and she is too. And I was like, listen, I need you to go back to your own state. Okay. My state, your state. Back there you go.
That's a great story.
Right.
Oh my God.
I was like, man, do mom and dad know they raised a whole family of swingers? I was raised in a comfortable environment like that, but I was raised in a political family. So the things that you desire are not allowed. So it was a long haul for me to untrain my brain. And this man has been amazingly patient in that. And I think that is so important for men, because men have to realize that it is a process for a woman to separate sex from emotion, to separate that and be like, that is just carnal pleasure. And what we have is an amazing love. I mean, I never thought I could love a human being the way I love my husband. And a lot of that is because he trusts me and he gives me the freedoms that I need. And he has been very patient with me working through this whole, I'm not a whore thing. Like, I'll answer the phones at Cali and people will ask, how is it there? And what's it like? And is it high pressure? And it definitely is not here. It is definitely not a high pressure environment. It's one of the things that I love. It really is non-judgmental. I mean, every high school has its bully, right? And that's what I tell people. But I tell people all the time, it's what you want. It's just only what you want. You want soft play, you soft play. You want to try just kissing someone, just kiss them. And it always gets to the playrooms. What are the playrooms like? Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, they're amazing. And I got into this habit now where I'm like, I've seen a lot of playrooms in my time. And it gets really quiet. And I'm like, I'm not a whore. That's not what I meant. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of times where, like, we love to travel, and we'll just find an environment like that. And it's not that we even necessarily play with anyone else.
Right.
We love to be in the environment. I love to have sex with my husband while I'm listening to, like, live porn, and then you get to the ones where it's like, lady, please, come on. We all know that's not real. But
there is a lot of re-education that you have to do to yourself, because the broad society doesn't teach you that this is okay. And so we try to be open to what feels right to us and think about it. And then living here, this community really is very well balanced here. We do have, when single guys come in, sometimes, they can be,
douchebags.
Inappropriate.
And
But,
sometimes they're not. We've met some wonderful
we
single
have.
guys
We have
here.
too.
But I wanted to get to what you were saying earlier about trust and stuff. What I typically explain to people is that if you are loving with your partner and you are able to open up and be vulnerable to them, and they don't take advantage of that, they don't judge you for that, then you start to feel comfortable and trust that person. Mm. And then eventually that evolves into a state of knowing each other so well that you don't fear losing each other. And to me, that's the key. Once you don't fear losing each other, then you can really open up to this experience, because you realize, I'm not scared of this person taking my person away from me, right? So I can let them have fun, let them do what they want to do with this person. And I can actually enjoy that they're enjoying themselves, right? Because the jealousy, the threat isn't there.
And I think with that, getting to the point, especially as females, like you said, being able to hear it and not panic about it. I think that if you can get yourself in a mindset where you can actually hear what happened on the other side and how it felt and what that felt like. And there are times still that I'm just like, oh, God,
Yep.
what happened next? And I kind of clinch through it. But it's like, you know what? Then that gives me my personal space to kind of work through that. How do I feel about that? He never pressures me. I mean, he used to come home and I'd be like, okay, just hit me with the basics. And he'll go like, I didn't come. There was no anal. There was, I mean, he knows.
All the ones I didn't do.
Right. And I'm like, okay, good. And that was it for me.
That's because I've come home before and I've been like, I came, and she's like, you did what?
I'm like,
I did anal. She's like, you did what?
Yeah. I'm like, show me. No, I'm just kidding. No.
After you get out of the shower.
Right. You cleaned up, right? No, but, and I think protection is tough too, because it doesn't feel good to men to wear a condom. But it's like, I tell Scott all the time, the lifestyle is not worth our lives. So for us, that's a very important thing. It's been a new experience in this like relationship that we were in or are in. And I said, the four of us finally agreed that if we ventured out, we would talk about it, and it had to be protected sex because the four of us wanted to be able to be together without that fear. He can't make babies. I can't have babies. We're in good shape. And so we kind of started that experience because we weren't with anyone else, and we all did our clean testing and all of that. And I think that's another important thing for me. Right, is that once a year we get checked for everything. Let's just make sure that nothing has happened. But I finally got to the point where a couple 3 years into it, I'm like, okay, so what else happened? And he's like, really? And I'm like, just talk.
Until I tell you to shut up.
Until I tell you to stop, and I don't want to know that part. And now it really has gotten to where I'm open to hearing it because I want to know what pleasured him. I want to know that he pleasured another woman. I want to know that she was patient with him or aggressive with him. Because I think for the most part, neither one of us are really dominant. I'm like, just tell me what you want. But it now has gotten to the point where when we call reconnect, when we reconnect at the end of all of that, I'm having sex with him saying, tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. Then what? Then what? Then what? And so for me, it's gotten to a point where I actually love it. It's like porn, but real porn. And I think for him, it's always been that way. I would come home and I'd be like, so we did this and then this happened and that happened. And he's like, no, let's start over.
Right.
Slower.
Slowly.
And then he put his one finger where, and I'm like, no, start with the where with the one finger, then the two.
Which finger was it?
Tristan loves to hear
And
it.
then he was
all.
fisting
And I'm like,
me. No,
I
he was
don't
not.
remember. I'm like, I don't remember these details.
Well,
and that's the deal. Like my job is to come home and remember the details.
Mine
That's like
too.
my gift. Because he's like, yes, go and do, but I really want to know. And so I'm like, ah, shit, I have to be paying attention.
And then you
because
feel like
that's my gift back. It's like you allowed.
Well, that's how I'm part of it.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. And he always wants to be a part of it, but I make my own decisions and go out on dates by myself too. And so it's like, that's where I can give that back.
Well, and it is weird. I mean, it is very odd to be like, writing your husband, telling him a story. And then you say, he's like, did you come? And I'm like 6 times, and then you feel like, does that make you mad? And he's like, no, I was hoping it was at least 8 to 10.
Did you feel me get harder?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you like that, huh?
Yep.
I agree.
But I think too, and the other thing I wanted to circle back to Michelle and talking about this in the emotions and women separating emotion from the actual act of having sex. And I'm very emotional. I'm very emotionally connected. So very much like you, I enjoy having sex with people the more that I know them, because that to me is a bigger turn on. But I think in talking about now where you are in your growth and your journey, that now you want to hear even more. But I will say that sometimes that still is even
It
situational. It's like,
is.
Like,
Some things sting. He'll still tell me to the day, and it'll sting, and I'll be like, then what happened after
and it may
that?
And it may be just the person. It may not you can tell me that with this particular person, but with this person, I really don't want to hear that, or I don't want to know. And I don't know how that's going to be. But the beauty of that, obviously, between you two is that and that was the other thing I was going to comment on, Michelle, is that you talk about doing your own, thinking about for yourself. And Tristan and I have come to that too. Like sometimes something will bother one of us, and it may never even come to the point where I need to say something to him about it, because it's my own self-reflection and my own checking and gut checking. It's like, actually, he didn't do anything wrong. It was either I didn't communicate it, so maybe I have to say, by the way, in the future, that upset me, that was because I didn't do a good job of explaining X, Y, Z. And so it's not you, but I need you to know why this was this way. Or it just doesn't even come out. Like you settle it for yourself and go, why was I really even worried just
I think
or whatever it struck me.
It's important to be able to be honest about things so that you trust that your partner's honest about things. You know, if I say something to her that I did or that happened and she gets angry for it, then I'm thinking, oh God, if that ever happens again, do I tell her? And you know, I have this overarching rule of honesty that we would call them hard truths. That I will tell her the hard truth, but you've got to make it easier for your partner to tell you the truth, right? So rather than getting angry, she lets me know, okay, I'm not really comfortable with that. Please don't do that again. I know next time that I'm going to hurt her if I do that, and I don't.
Well, and I think too, some of the hardest parts is finding, especially with couples, because I feel like most swingers start out together. We're going to do this together. And for us, it was, we were in the same room, the same bed. I mean, we literally broke a bed at Desire once because there were too many in the bed. But, it was... It was that kind of thing, And I think one thing that I would say we have one rule that's literally a rule, and that is that you do not take one for the team. I am not going to sleep with a man because he wants to sleep with their wife. And if they're not comfortable separating, then it's off the table. If the three of them can't be together with me being out, then so be it. Then it's done. But I think that is very important. If your partner is uncomfortable with whatever it is, it doesn't even matter why. If they're uncomfortable, it's off the table. I am not going to take one for the team. He is not going to take one for the team.
Well, and I think that gets back to our overarching point, which is respect, right? We respect each other and never put each other in an uncomfortable situation intentionally. And we also expect respect from the people that we're with. And we don't always follow that. And fortunately, that's usually our bad experiences. If we see that the couple that we're talking to respect each other, then that's a good sign that they will respect us and it'll be a good experience. So.
And I think too, it's important to talk to them separately, right? Like you can talk as a group and everything's going well and it's flowing and everything's great. And I think Scott and I are pretty adamantly always separate. I want you to go talk to the female and I want to talk to the male. And sadly, what I come across a lot of times is I'll be in the conversation with the male and he's like, yeah, when she does that shit, it drives me crazy. And I'm like, how are you going to disrespect your wife while you're talking to the woman you want to sleep with?
Right.
And that's it for me. Everything's been flowing and I go back to Scott and I'm like, how was your conversation? And he's like, it was great. She's fantastic. And I'm like, yeah, her husband completely disrespects her. I can't do it. I am not going to sleep with a man who disrespects his wife. It's rude. It's uncalled for. If you cannot respect the woman that you married, that you're spending the rest of your life with, how can I trust that you're going to respect me? And so it becomes off the table. And he's like, we've been working on this all day.
Why don't you take him for a drink or two? That's not taking him for the team.
Maybe it's just a bad day. Maybe he just really
he
pissed
does.
about
He's like,
this morning.
Can we talk to him again in the morning and try this again? And I'm a no. I'm a no girl. I'm not going to give you a second chance. If you disrespect your wife, I'm not in.
And that's one of the key points I wanted to say is that, particularly for the men out there, and not to be sexist, but I mean, it's true. Men tend to be a quicker yes than a woman in any given situation. So I realized very early on in my lifestyle experience that letting the woman lead is really a strong principle particularly for newer couples, right? Doesn't mean it always has to be that way, but women's comfort level, the female's comfort level has to be there if you're going to build something long term, because otherwise the man just wants to get to it and they're impatient and the woman starts to see the man as pressuring rather than encouraging. There's a fine line there. I want to encourage her to do things, but I don't want to push her to do things.
Right.
And so I found that letting you lead was the key to not overdoing it, not
and
killing
also the
things.
most frustrating.
It was because you said
Right.
you said no to a lot of things, and I got frustrated. But usually you were right. I mean, you had quite a couple experiences where you're like, look, go ahead, keep talking to her, and then I was like, oh yeah, you're right, she's a psycho.
Yeah, he came back. I was like, how'd the conversation go? He said, she said she could teleport into my soul. I was like,
Yeah, that really happened.
that did happen. Not
She
at
didn't actually
Cali.
teleport into my soul. She told me.
She told me. Yeah.
He's still there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, get out, bitch. Yeah, no. I'm like, can we
my
get
man.
a priest over here? Are we going to go to hell for that?
She read it completely. She told me that something weird was off about her, and we're sitting at the bar, and she told me that, and I'm like, okay, so what coming?
Yeah. Huh, honey? Yeah, and I think too, one of the other things, like you touched on it, is separate play. I am one where if I'm going to separate from him, I tend to stick with that. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is my thing now. And we had first 2 rounds were a little tough because sometimes it just gets weird. It's like, he called Scott and he was like, I would like to have Michelle on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Scott's like, what?
That was
We don't timeshare here,
That was your second kind of boyfriend
Yeah.
guy.
If the first was bad, the second was bad.
Well, I mean, I was comfortable with you guys spending time together, but when he started like wanting certain days, to me that was like, no, that's
Right.
yeah, she's not timeshare, you know.
And it is hard. I would say it's hard with like single men, really, because that's kind of their thing, right? They're like, okay, well, we have great sex. Can I see you 4 times a week? No, you cannot. And I think it's one of the things that's been nice about being in a relationship with a couple is that it's a trust. And I mean, they're literally, our best friends, and we love everything about it because I can go somewhere with him while he can take her to dinner. And I mean, we just have a good time, but we always meet back at the end of the night and play together. It's just what we do so that there's no discomfort or emotions or anything like that. And so it's been interesting and challenging and fun.
Well, the thing is, when you enter that relationship territory, you start to acknowledge that there are potentially feelings, and that's the scariest thing of them all. I think for Michelle in particular, is that
No feels. That's the rules.
But when you end up in a relationship with a couple like we are now, you start to wonder about those things, and she's like taking steps to try to prevent them again, and you find yourself breaking some of the principles that I was talking about earlier that we try to go in with, right? So it gets really complicated.
But I think too, I mean, it's not like we entered with a vanilla couple either. I mean, they were swingers. And so I think that as far as that goes, what Scott and I have learned is that they're not emotional feelings. Like they're not in love with us, and we're not in love with them. It's just an emotion sometimes that comes across where it's like, you deeply care about people. Scott and I are very honed into people. Like we love people. It's our thing, right? We can't, when we had COVID and had to stay in this condo for 10 days, oh God. I mean, it was great sex for 10 days. But I mean, you get like stir crazy and you start to miss the real world and you start to miss those people, and it's like, why am I missing them? I'm missing them because they're my best friends and because I care about them. It's not love. And I think every now and then, even all 4 of us stop. We gut check. That's what we call it. Let's take a few days and gut check. And I think that those are important. And it has to be a very honest conversation that sometimes is very hard. He'll say, so do you have feelings for him? And I'm like, no, I don't have feelings for him. I'm not in love with him, but I do care about him, and I care about his wife. She's my best friend. That's even weirder. But it's that's what it is for me. It's that trust factor of these people respect us and we respect them. And that's really the core of everything to me is respect. I can screw your brain out as long as you're respectful. Not necessarily in bed,
Right.
but in the real world.
Sometimes when we disrespected in the bedroom, and then respected immediately after.
Yeah. And then after we're like, high five. Bam. That was awesome.
I'm like, take that. And then I'm like, afterward, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Is that okay?
Was that too hard? No, not at all.
I'm going to have my handprint on your ass for 3 days.
That's a whole nother conversation about levels and how far you go with your partner. That's a whole nother conversation.
And I think that that's true too, because that's always going to be different. And I think the thing with swinging for us has been the only constant is change. Right? It's never going to be the same. It's not going to be the same with Joe and Steve and Sarah and, whatever. It's going to be different with all of them.
Who are Joe and Steve?
We'll talk about that later.
Oh, gotcha.
But he knew who Sarah was. So
Good for her. Yeah. He doesn't care about that. Yeah. He's like, why wasn't I invited?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You mentioned levels, and that's one of the. You made me think of an interesting thing that happened with us, where I was out in the pool one day, and we hang out at Caliente separately sometimes because she's working or because she's not in the mood, or I was going to say I'm not in the mood. That never happens. But I met this girl who was a dominatrix, and she's talking all about how she loves doing this stuff and how it's not really sexual. It's more of a I don't know how.
A mind fuck.
It is.
Yeah, it is mind fuck. And so I get interested in this. I'm like, yeah, I'll submit to that. As long as you don't leave a mark or cause permanent damage, I'm good. And so I called up Michelle. I'm like, hey, I just met this dominatrix in the pool, and I want to go to the playrooms with her. And she's like, what? This isn't our normal protocol. I'm like, I know, but listen, this is what she's going to do. And Michelle's like, all right, give it a whirl. So, I go into the playrooms with this girl.
I hope she beats the shit out of you.
and I'd never had an experience like that. And it turns out I really enjoyed it. I mean, she had all sorts of various things, whipping me and that sort of stuff. But
I now own 2.
Yeah.
Right.
And it wasn't like, she did end up leaving a couple of marks that were there for a while, but I kind of encouraged the increase.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I came home, I told Michelle all about it, and I still look at that as a very erotic experience, even though it wasn't a sexual experience, right? There's a difference. So just being able to have that experience even though I'm in a committed relationship with someone who, at least prior to that, wasn't.
Now I'm like,
wasn't
can I?
that,
Okay.
Right. It was really great for me, and I loved sharing that experience with her.
And I think that was hard for me too, because I'm like, you're going into this, you're going to do this. You don't tell me you didn't have sex. And he's like, we didn't have sex. And it's a female thing. Our mind can't wrap our head around that.
Right.
Like how you can enjoy that pleasure and then not have some form of sex, you know? And he was like, not a lick. And listen, I can look him in the eyes and know if he's lying. I'm like, God, you're serious.
Yeah. Oh,
And he's like, will you please have sex with me now?
Right, because there's no
driven.
Well, that's what we always say. There's no why. There's no reason to lie. Yeah, that is what it is. And now I need to fuck the shit out of you
Right.
Because
Yes, that's
shut
exactly
up.
what
We
happened.
didn't fuck, and
Yeah.
now I need to fuck you right now.
He's like, stop talking.
Yes.
And I'm like, show me what she did.
There are at least 6 or 7 witnesses. I don't know if I can find
Right in
them,
the
but-
clear room. I love that room. God,
That's really
I
cool.
love the exhibition room. I'm like, let's give him a show, baby.
We're gonna have to talk about that too. Circle back to that at another time,
Yeah.
I think. But this is awesome and this is
Yeah,
amazing.
this is
And
good
thank
stuff.
you so much for sharing this very open part, because this is truly what our listeners like to hear. And it's so important to hear that, oh my God, I'm not the only woman that's still struggling with the fact. And they hear it from me and from us, and we talk about, we don't even have a women's group, but it's so important that they hear it from other people as well.
Yeah, I wish I had had that, honestly. I mean,
Right?
it was nice to be with him and him understand the experiences, but for me to find other women, I mean, we're 7 years in and there's still things that make me go, oh,
Right.
God. But it's a learning experience
and
every time.
You've developed kind of your network of female friends that you can do that with after being through this experience. And we've made some of the best friends that we'll ever have through this experience, through the lifestyle.
That we don't even play with.
Yeah, some we've never played with, some we've played with once, and we're like, oh, that wasn't real good for us. But we like the friendship, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Muffs and cuffs.
and so, those are people that we can talk to about things that happen when it comes up. And that's a great thing to have.
It is very important, I think, to have that one, that even if it's that one person that you can go to and go, this is what happened. Has it ever happened to you?
Right. And I actually talk about it often with Tristan because I was not sure of his compulsive nature. He kept telling me, and I'm like, yeah, you say this, but the first time I fuck some dude, this is all not going to work.
Yeah,
and
like,
it's gonna
are you
go-
going to divorce me?
Yeah, and like, because it's not worth it and all of those same feelings. And I was lucky enough to meet a guy in the lifestyle who was very much wired like he was. And so it was another couple, and we just, same type of thing. We're just trying to coordinate the 4 of us meeting. But in the meantime, he and I struck up a friendship. And so I would say, like, I don't know, Tristan keeps telling me these things. And I'm like, I don't believe it. But they were so wired similarly. I could say, hey, if I said this to you, what would your response be? And it was always whatever his response
It's
was.
a hard dick.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah.
And so, like, literally. But, and so it was so great to be able to have someone to bounce that off of, because I'm not sure that I would have trusted, because we had never done anything like this. So how can he be telling me these things? And even if we had tried it and he said he loved it, how could that be true? So to be able to have someone, and that's what we talk about all the time, is being able to get this is why talking to other folks is so important, that our listeners can hear that.
I think too, it's a self-confidence. Women lack a self-confidence that men carry. It's easy for them. They just strut in. They're like naked before they even hit the doors. They come through the gate and it's like, wow, hi.
I know. I came here 2 or 3 times where I didn't even take my bra off, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm sure all the men are looking at my boobs. It has nothing to do with all the other naked boobs they're walking through. I'm sure they're looking at my totally covered up boobs. I was
honest
like,
to God,
oh
that was
God.
my thing. Like when we would go to Desire, I struggled taking my top off. Most women take their bottoms and leave their tops, I'm like, whoosh, but I don't take my top off because I had breast cancer. And so I have scars that I'm very uncomfortable with. And I feel like that's the first thing that people see. And what I've learned along the way is it's just the best community of non-judgmental people. Whether you hook up with swingers or not, I would encourage everyone to at least put themselves in that environment if they're curious, with an understanding that we're not going to do anything. Because for women, it's a self-confidence thing. You see these like Barbie dolls walking around the pool and you're like, oh God. But it's not that way. It's the best thing about swinger communities is they're open-minded and they're non-judgmental.
We've gotten to the point where pretty much all of our friends now are lifestyle. I mean, it's because we tend to identify with them more, and because we tend to be more easily open with them about things. It's just more comfortable for us compared to like restricting what we say so that we don't offend someone.
Right.
I will say one of the things that we have learned though is when you work, live, and play in the same environment is that we do tend to play at home. We don't tend to play with people at work because we work there. It's just a respect thing. We don't want people talking about it. I tease him all the time. I'm like, I'm going to have a sign made that says, for the front door that says, fucking busy with a pineapple right side up. And when you flip it over, it's going to say busy fucking with a pineapple down, you know, and then it'll say, oh, welcome to the G spot.
I love it.
That's a perfect front door sign.
Because, you know, I mean, we do. I am a private person. Now, I like to be in that room where everyone can see what I'm doing. But, you know, at the same time, I think for the most part, I'm pretty kind of, let's just keep it here for right now. I mean, we break that rule. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, I think because we live here, work here, play here, we kind of tend to keep it separate.
Right. I was going to ask, tell us one of your funniest swinger stories.
Oh, yeah. That's good. So should I start this one?
Go.
So we're at Desire on vacation. We're in the pool hanging out, and Michelle, we're scoping. We're
On our
prospecting.
honeymoon.
Oh, was this our honeymoon?
This is our honeymoon.
I was in. So Michelle's like, I'm obsessed with this guy across the pool. I'm like, I look over at him, and he's a good-looking guy. And she said, I think it might be. I'm like, come on, he's not.
I was hoping.
But as I looked at him, I'm like, that might actually be. So we go over and introduce ourselves, and we learned that he's not, but he's dead on lookalike, and his wife. And then, oh my God, are we really telling this? Okay, so she decides she really, really wants this guy, right? And
No, I went in. I'm one of those that I have to go take a nap and reset in the middle of the day at Desire all the time because it's overwhelming sometimes.
Okay.
So I'd gone in for a nap.
right, she'd gone in for a nap, so it's just a few of us in the pool, and I'm in there with lookalike, and I said, so Michelle's really interested in you, and he said, well, I'm interested in her, so I'm like, hold on. And I run over to the hotel room.
First separate experience.
Right. I run over to the hotel room and tell Michelle, I'm like, so wants to come in here and fuck. And she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, just say yes, just say yes, just say it. And so she didn't say anything. She pulled the covers up over her head and nodded her head. And,
I was like,
and I'm like, that's good enough for me.
I couldn't look him in the eyes.
Because I was so excited. I'm going to be like, I'm going to tell all my friends, my wife fuck. So,
Sorry.
So I go out to him and I said, okay, Michelle would like you to go in there and have fun. And so he's like, hell yeah. He pops up and I take him over to the room and I open the door for him. And I'm suddenly I'm not sure what to do. I mean, I know what's going to happen between the two of them. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I want to be outside there? I don't know.
I said you can't leave.
I can't leave, but I know I have to be within earshot. So I end up coming in and I'm watching them just kind of in the doorway. I'm watching him crawl into bed with her and she knows what's coming. And I feel guilty watching. I shouldn't be watching. So I laid down at the bottom of the bed, like on the floor. So I'm just laying there flat, staring at the ceiling, listening to them go at it for like 35 minutes. And
Closer to an hour.
Yeah.
I remember.
Okay. So, I mean, just not moving. And then he leaves and she goes, Scott, and I pop up at the bottom of the bed.
I was like, that's
The
weird.
hell? I'm like, and we thought that was really kind of funny. But I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing too is, people always talk about safe words, right? You know, they're like, my safe word is chocolate, and I'm like, how do you make that incognito?
Right.
Like, oh God, I could use some chocolate.
Yeah.
You know. So Scott and I got to the point where I don't call him Scott. I never call him Scott. I call him babe or honey or love or whatever. So when we're in an environment, if I say Scott, everything going okay? He knows that our safe words are our names because I don't call him Scott. I call him babe or booty or love or hey or honey or asshole or whatever. You know? But so we decided. Because really, when people talk about safe words, and I think they're very important because sometimes things go wrong. We had an experience that went wrong, and it was tough for me because it was one of our first, and I wasn't sure I'd get past it, but I did, and it's because we talked about things like safe words, and I do. People joke about them, but I do feel like they're very important because at any time, if I'm uncomfortable, and it might not be what I'm doing, it might be what I'm seeing happening. Mm-hmm. So if I say Scott in the middle of sex, he stops immediately. He gets up. He's like, hey, how's everything over here? And I'm like,
I think that's really, really an important thing I'd like to expand on just real quick is that if we are in the middle of something, whether we're together or near each other or whatever, and she says stop or I say stop, we stop immediately. There's no questions asked. There's no let me finish. she says, Scott, then I know, stop immediately. And I in that particular scenario, I did. I stopped immediately, I got up and left with her. And the woman, I was just like, what the hell?
Right.
But I was like, your husband's a dick.
It doesn't matter. She is my priority. No questions asked, no dealing with it there. We'll talk about it later.
And I think the key to that too is when that happens, if you are in an experience that is very good for you, it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
You
Doesn't
stop.
matter how good my
You
experience
stop when your partner stops.
Right.
That's the end of it. Whether you're done or you're not done, you have to respect your partner. And even if it's amazing, he will stop every time I say his name. It's done. It's over.
No, it's not like you've used that a lot. But there have been a few times.
Couple.
But it's like when your mom calls your name, when you're a kid.
Yeah,
you use your full name.
Yeah, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're like, oh God, I'm in trouble.
And sometimes it's not him, and that's just something that we kind of have to regroup on. And I was like, it was just too aggressive for me. I felt like it was like some rape fantasy in his mind, and I was just trying to have a good experience, and it wasn't, and I realized that in the middle, and I'm like, Scott, and he just immediately gets up and leaves with me.
Yeah, I feel like I'm revealing all the stuff that I'm going to write in my book one day. No, I'm not. Ever.
We're not going to write a book. We're lazy.
Yeah, I mean, women, again, God, if I'm going to come across as sexist, I don't mean to be, but women in particular, I've noticed sometimes, and you did this, sometimes end up in a situation when they're in an environment like Caliente or like Desire or something. You feel like you are what? You're like certain things, you don't know what's allowable and what's not allowable.
Exactly.
And I always tell people when I give them tours at Caliente that as a woman, you have just as much right to your body here as you do in your own home. Mm-hmm. Someone comes up to you and starts putting their hands where they shouldn't, you need to stop them immediately.
Mm-hmm. And I think for women, it's hard for us sometimes to find our words, right? Like it's like, you don't want to, well, for me, it's like I'm such a people person that I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But you know what I have learned is that it's my body, it's my right, and if you're making me uncomfortable, you better back the hell off.
And just because you're in an environment like this where things like that are tolerated by people,
you feel like you have
watching,
to.
Right? You feel like I guess that might be okay here because you don't know, but it's not.
Right.
So if someone makes you uncomfortable, you've got to stop them.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we tell people that all the time too. It is totally fine to, I'll do it jokingly because that's my style. Mm-hmm. But if someone does something, and I'm very approachable, very super flirty, so I usually don't mind people touching me. Mm-hmm. Right. But if someone does something like egregious, then I'll turn and I'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry. Did I give you permission to do that?"
That happened to me at Caliente. I was floating on a float, and this dude comes up and just thought he could. Right between the legs. And I sat up on my float and I grabbed his hand and I was like, you want to buy me a drink or ask me what my name is?
Right.
And he ended up getting DNA'd, but because they don't tolerate that here.
Right. The person that I'm thinking about in particular was not, they were being playful.
This guy was not.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who he was.
Right.
He literally told me that he thought because I worked here, I came with his membership. And I lost my shit. I'm not one to hold my tongue.
Oh my!
Anymore, I used to, but now I'm like, mother. I reached down. And I was like, "Come on, we're gonna go find security. I'm gonna take you by your leash."
Yeah, luckily things like that don't tend to happen here. But we did talk about it because there is kind of there's been a pretty common topic lately about implied consent.
Yes.
And so when you come to a place, there is a level of implied consent. Someone's going to stare at your tits. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Mm-hmm. That's that's the way that is. Yeah, right. So, if that's offensive, then don't take off your shirt because you're in a place where someone may accidentally look at your boobs for more than
and that's
what's
the thing.
normal.
Just because you're in the environment doesn't mean you have to be naked.
Right.
It doesn't mean you can't wear a bathing suit.
Right.
And it definitely doesn't mean someone else has the right to your body.
Right.
You've got to learn. I say it all the time. You got to learn to use your big girl words. You have to. And Scott's so good about that when he does tours. He explains to people, no is no here. If you say no and they don't oblige, you find security.
Right.
And they're done.
Right.
And this place supports that so much that it's amazing.
Right.
You tell a security guard that you have been violated in any way, shape, or form, and they're gone. Our GM supports it. She does not allow it, and it's done. It is a safe environment, and that is so important to make sure that you're walking into an environment where you feel safe.
Absolutely.
Or sometimes you'll consent to something and you'll be in the middle of it and you'll realize, oh no, I am uncomfortable with this. Mm-hmm. And you need to be able to just stop it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's hardest for women because I think in general, women tend to just shut down and let it happen until it's over. And you can't do that. You have to stop it immediately.
It's very awkward when you're in the middle of sex and you're just thinking it's just easier to finish, so to speak, than it is to stop this. But I mean,
not anymore. I'm like, Scott.
I've literally been in a scenario where I've been in the middle of having sex with a female and just feeling like, oh my God, this isn't working for me. And normally, I think most men would be like, I'm just going to finish and then get out of here. I just stopped and I'm like, I don't think we're compatible. And she looked at me like, what? And
because you don't want to hurt people.
Yeah,
you don't.
That's the thing. It's not because they're
Right.
they're consented to be there with you,
Right.
and so you're giving it a go. And
But the thing
there's-
is if you're not comfortable, it doesn't matter what the other person feels. It just doesn't. And I mean, there have been a few times where we have said, oh God, and I'll come home and he's like, how was it? And I'm like, I had to stop it. It was too much. And I think making sure you're in the right mindset going into things like that. You got to have a clear mind. You got to know where your standards are and that you have to never break your standards for anyone because ultimately it has an effect on you. When it's having an effect on you, it's having an effect on your marriage because you feel each other. If you're in a genuine marriage, you feel that person. So it is. It's very important to no means no. Mm-hmm. Get the fuck off me.
That's right.
I'm done.
That's right. So are you.
Yeah.
And so are you. Yeah.
At least right here.
Yeah, you and your right hand are going to have a great afternoon. And that's the thing too, is what's right for me isn't necessarily what's right for you.
Right.
You may love that. I don't want to feel that. I want to feel wanted. I don't want to feel like a notch on your bedpost.
Right.
And when
that's
I
not
start
my style
feeling
either.
like
but
that,
there
I'm
are
out.
definitely people that are totally down with that. And we talk about this all the time as well. It's talking about swinging on a spectrum. There are some people that are much more in the, no, I don't want emotions. I don't want relationship side.
Mm-hmm.
Like you talked about it, but not necessarily that's cheaper to keep her, but that they truly, it's just about having sex. Mm-hmm. And they're one and done couples or
Oh, we have a
whatever
lot.
that is.
We've had some what we call one and dones.
Yeah.
I feel like Scott's the worst because we'll find a couple and I'm like, that was awesome. And he's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm like, oh. Are you sure you don't want to try one more time?
But there's there's nothing wrong with that, is what I was
No,
trying to point out. Is that
absolutely
there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because why you wouldn't move forward with somebody else if you weren't a swinger?
Right.
So that it just doesn't make sense. But that's that's truly their modus operandi. They have no desire to really actually get to even care to know anybody else. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what works in their dynamic, that's awesome. It wouldn't work for us,
Right.
but that's awesome for
I
them.
mean,
That's
occasionally.
kind of our ethos.
well, that's a different thing.
Yeah. From time to time, a good house party is a good house party.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm talking about.
Welcome to the
house party.
G-spot.
Yeah.
I'd like to say
Or
again.
accidental anonymous sex in the group room
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
playroom here one night. So yeah, that was pretty hot.
Yeah, that was hot.
Yeah, that was hot.
The playrooms here are fun.
Yeah, well, this is actually pre-playroom. This was at the
Casita Clubhouse.
The Casita Clubhouse back then when it was back
Oh,
then.
when it was the play villa.
Yes. And we had an accidental anonymous sex.
Let's get it on.
That happened
It
to
was
us.
awesome,
That happened
yeah.
to us once on a Bliss cruise. We got invited to literally an orgy,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was I'd never been in one. I was like, oh my God, this is so freaking weird. He's like, all I'm asking is that you open your mind and just try. So we go in, and I was that awkward girl standing in the corner, and he's like, Michelle, come sit down. I was like, no, okay.
Are you gonna do the whole orgy story now? Do you have time for that?
I don't know, but it was awesome.
You should do it,
Okay,
yes.
so all right, so we went in.
So setting the stage. We're on the Bliss cruise, and Michelle hits it off with this guy who she finds it very attractive, and he invites us to the orgy, which is a couple days, I think, away at the point we were invited.
Yeah, which is worse. I had 2 days to freak out about this thing.
About an orgy.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
your
oh my
first
God,
orgy.
we're going to an orgy. She's
I'm like, oh God, we're
God.
going to an orgy.
I was
What are we supposed
through
to
the roof
do?
excited
Yeah,
about
we
this.
were
right?
like that with
Yeah,
our
yeah.
first.
And so we go through the course of back and forth with you, whether you want to go or not. And
But you asked me to be open-minded, and I
did.
agreed.
I asked you. I said this is important to me that we at least try this. You don't have to do anything, right? But I wanted to be there for it.
How do you not do anything when you've been invited to an orgy? That's what I'm freaking out about.
Right.
So we go up to the suite. It was a suite in the cruise ship. That,
And by invitation, right? There was only probably 12, 15 couples in there.
maybe like 20 couples, I
Okay,
think.
God. Yeah, 20.
Yeah, probably
Sounds
40
good.
people total. Yeah, and we walk in and we're like strategically like 5 minutes late, right? That was like what our plan was. But of course, nothing had started yet. So we walk in and it's just a couple standing around awkwardly. And we're like,
Awkward.
oh my God, what's going to happen here? And then I think someone came out and said, all right, let's,
Everybody sit down, grab a seat.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody sit down. And then he went over a couple of
It was cool
guidelines or
though
whatever.
because they structured it well. They knew that they had invited people that had never done it before, so they were like, everybody sit down and get comfortable. And then they talked about it. They were like, this is what could happen. This is what could not happen. If you have any issues, no is no here. You're in a safe zone. And so I got into the mode. I'm a people person. So I get in and Scott's like, shit. And I was like, hey, I'm Michelle. You know?
Yeah, you do tend to sparkle socially like that.
Every girl needs sparkle.
Yeah, literally. So we
Go in and sit down.
We were sitting down and they're going over everything with this, and I thought going in, I'm like, I'm gonna fuck all these girls and it's gonna be awesome. And then as a guy, you get in that situation, you're like, man, I might have to fuck all these girls. And you're like,
shit, what am I gonna do? But it was very well structured. So they sat down and they really kind of got everybody going, right? They're like, everyone reach to your left, and I'm looking at my left, and I'm looking at my right, and I'm like, oh, hey.
But we had gone in with a mission, and that primary mission was you wanted to be with the guy that invited us.
That invited us.
And so I found myself really just kind of freaked out about having sex with multiple women in front
and
of
I was like, let's do this.
And so I kind of stepped back, and I went and strategically again socialized with this guy's other half, and as he made his way over to Michelle. And then you can take it from here.
Yeah, so they did. It almost felt like, the hokey pokey. It was like everyone reached to their left. So everyone reached to their left. And I had never in my life had the squirting experience, right? Well, the guy to my left knew exactly what he was going to do. And it happened. And I was like, I looked at Scott and I was like, I just squirted. He's like, what? I was like, he's still doing it. And so
Don't move.
I was like, just watch
him going.
Yeah. And I was like, so that was like a kickoff for me. It made me horny. It had never happened to me. Wow. I was like, this is real. I was like, I was dead set. I was like, squirting is not a thing. They're peeing all over him. But for real, it happened. And I was like, it was the most insane experience. So this guy had me warmed up and horny. I was like, thank you for moving to the left. And he was to my left. So, I was just kind of stroking him off or whatever. And then it got crazy. And the guy that I was massively attracted to came over and just went straight down. I was like, oh God, this is amazing. I want to do this every day. And it was just, we had a great time. And then I had sex with him. And then he came in a condom, and then he wanted to go again. I was like, oh, because you feel like most men are kind of one and done, right? Like once that happens, it's over. Not this guy. Not at all.
Well, I think you had something to do with that. But you ended up making him come twice, which you were thrilled by. But man, he was thrilled. He was like, I've never had this happen before. And I'm sitting across the room.
It got weird. He's like, it was
heavenly.
Oh my God. I was like, we got to go.
Scott. Right at the very end. Damn it, we're so close until he teleported into your soul.
Yeah, he teleported. Yeah, he did.
Shit.
I was
so
like,
close.
Damn, I read this one wrong.
Yeah.
So now I'm the only guy I know who would actually have to say, yeah, I went to an orgy and didn't fuck anybody.
Oh,
No,
you did?
He didn't. You bet you didn't really want to.
Because I was so wrapped up in your experience, and that's
well, and the other 14 that were happening.
Well, yeah, I mean there was a lot to watch, but
that's when I learned that you
were
were a watcher.
Yeah,
that was the first for me. I was like,
I get that.
You like watching,
so, and I have no resentment for that. So I didn't have sex. I enjoyed the experience, right? And that's what it was.
That was, and I would say that was a weird experience for me. But it's led to this thing where now, well, not currently, but we've had some experiences where he's like, I'm going to sit in the closet. Tell him I'm not here. And I'm like, what? And he's like, tell him I'm not here. You're on your own. You're doing this. Your husband doesn't know. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I can pull this off. And then they get in the door and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Go. And then they leave. And then he comes out of the closet and I'm like, so, and he's like, got an erection. And I'm like, lay down. Let me tell you about what you heard. But it was, so we really have tried all kinds of different things.
Fun.
I'm still to the day, 7 years in, I am still very nervous about having sex when my husband's not present, especially if it's somebody I'm not real familiar with. And so it's a safety thing for me, and then it's erotic thing for him.
Yeah, guess what that means for me? That's what I wanted to do.
Right.
Yeah. He's like,
Score.
do it, baby. Yeah.
Right.
Because to see you or hear about you taking that chance and going beyond your comfort zone is exciting, right? Because you're doing it for you, but you're doing it with my consent. And it's also for me.
And I'm praying he doesn't suck. Yeah.
Right.
But, we've done it a couple times. It's been pretty friggin' erotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my thing too. Sometimes I just don't feel safe if I don't really know them. And so it's like, he will do whatever he has to do. He'll hide in the closet. He'll sit in the bathroom. The last time I was like, we did it. I was like, he's like, can I clean up? I was like, yeah, I'm going to need you to use the guest bathroom. Because I knew that Scott was in the regular one and he did not.
Yes.
And that's led to we love to cam. We cam on SDC sometimes. And we just.
Right. Like to be watched.
We
But
do.
what it all comes down to is for me, I take the most pleasure in her experiences, oddly enough.
And I don't.
Yeah. I what do you mean? You don't
Like
take pleasure
with
in
you.
mine.
Right.
But it's
Because my mind,
Yep.
7 years in, still fucks with me.
Yeah.
When it's like, I can't, it's one of those things I think for women, like you struggle. He's telling you that it was good. And you're like, in your mind, you're like, oh, this sounded exceptional. Why don't you just say it's fucking exceptional?
Right.
And he's like, because it wasn't exceptional. I was like, whatever, But it's good. I think we've gotten to a really good place in our relationship where we just trust. We have a saying in our marriage that we have to have faith in our love. Have faith in your love. Because if you have faith in your love, then what else can really go wrong? I feel like I can tell him anything. I don't have to lie to him. I don't have to play things down. I don't have to play things up.
Right.
I can be completely honest with him because I have faith in our love that he's not going to be whatever it is, we can work through it. Because it's not always good.
The important thing there is faith, embracing what faith is. Faith is basically believing something without evidence that it exists, right? So faith in our love, even though there's tons of evidence that we love each other. Anytime there's a question, that I feel upset or angry about, if I can go back to that and say faith, then I say, okay, I'm going to, for the sake of our relationship, for the sake of our love, for her sake, I'm just going to have faith that that's real.
You got to be honest. God, you got to be honest. You got to communicate the good, the bad, and the ugly. We don't do ugly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I say that.
I've done some ugly.
That's the key to
True.
it all. That's the key to it all is the communication and just the openness and the honesty. And you have to continue to move that forward within each relationship.
Right.
How you doing? Absolutely. I think that's a good place to stop.
This is amazing.
At least part one
yeah.
of the Scott and Michelle
2,
saga.
3, 4, 5, and
Yes.
6 to be continued.
I think so. No, this has been an amazing
Yes,
conversation. Thank you so
absolutely.
much,
Thank you for
guys.
coming.
Thank you so much for inviting us to your home.
To the G spot.
To the
thank you.
G spot.
Yes,
We
thank
didn't
you for
know.
the
Now
invitation
we
to your
know.
G spot.
I've always wondered where it was because sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure I have
I'll
one.
show you,
But
girl.
now I know where it is.
Sometimes I still wander around trying to find it.
Wandering aimlessly.
Randomly ringing doorbells. Wait,
Well, thankfully, most of the shuttle drivers here know where it is. So.
Oh, now we can just say.
When we
just
live here, I'll call up and I'll be like, can you send a shuttle to the G spot? They're like, Michelle. I'm like, I know I can't, but I love it.
Well, thank you so much for your honesty and your openness and sharing with everybody about your thoughts and your feelings. Because again, this is what is so important to hear. Real couples talking about their real lives together, their real struggles, and the beauty that they find in their own alternative lifestyle journey. So
Thank you for having us.
thank you so much.
We've enjoyed.
Anything else to add, my love?
I think we're good.
I know.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. This was amazing.
This was.
Is it
Thanks
time for
again,
sex?
Yeah.
And now we're back to NPR all of a sudden. That was amazing. Can I have another bit of tea?
Thank you very much.
Wow. That was such an amazing conversation.
My gosh.
That is such an amazing couple.
We were blown away.
Yeah, we were blown away.
Blown away.
There is so much to unpack there that I encourage everybody to listen to that again and again
and again, yeah.
Because for all levels in the lifestyle, for newbies, for intermediate, for experienced, there's just so much there that
It turned into this, it was such an amazing, amazing conversation.
Yeah.
And I hear something different every time I listen to it.
yeah, me too.
I was there. I've listened to it to edit it. We listen to it right now. And I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that piece.
Yeah.
I really said, I turned to Tristan while we were playing this, and I said, I think this interview is something that we will be able to point people towards when they say, which episode talks about the lifestyle? It gives us a really good synopsis because ours are stories and it takes a long time to get there. But this is one couple in 7 years, and they wrapped it all up
In about an hour and 15
an
minutes.
hour and 15 minutes, but there's so much.
Yeah.
Like we really could do a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Yeah,
9, 10
yeah.
with them because, and we may, you never know. But gosh, it was so fun. And we obviously had an amazing time.
Yeah.
There's just a few things to recap. I don't think that we should really, there's so much we could just talk about on and on and on. I think what would be great is if you guys want to hear it again, listen to it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that you're going to get out of it what you need out of it.
Right, exactly.
You're going to get the information. You'll take away from it. There are a few things.
There are a
But
few
I do want to
things.
bring up because the way that they put it was so
Yeah.
great, or it was an aha moment for us.
Exactly.
And Phoenix and Crimson were there too, and they've been in the lifestyle twice as long as we have, a couple more years. And all of us were like, wow,
yeah.
whoa, that was so awesome. The one thing that for me, that I made a double note about, I think earlier on, where Scott talked about that there was an implied double standard.
Acknowledged.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're right. Acknowledged double standard.
Right.
And I never thought about that. You and I talked about that and we did that, but I don't know that we ever realized that that's what we were doing. We just
Yeah.
knew we had to make concessions. Actually, what happened was we fucked up and we didn't have that double standard. You said, well, if you get to do it, I get to do it. And it caused lots of problems because it didn't feel that okay. And we had to work through that quite a few times. So actually, if we had been able to do that beforehand and just say, no, let's figure out which way this is going to be, I think we would have saved a little bit.
Yeah, and this is a consistent friction point for many couples in the lifestyle that we've spoken with, including ourselves.
Right.
And so with you and me, it was about, how quickly we progressed with our solo play.
Right.
With others, it's been just a disparity in play, period.
Right.
Where women are getting all the action and men are like, okay, well, what do I do now?
Yeah, we're supposed to be fucking all these women.
Right. And we've talked about that a lot. And we've talked about our friction with Roy and for you and Amber for me and how we were kind of at a different pace. So going in, understanding that it's not going to all be equal. And I love the way that he said it. Fair doesn't necessarily mean equal.
Right. Yeah, he said that later on. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So spot on.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like, oh man, that is.
But you wouldn't know that until you get out there and experience
Right,
it.
absolutely.
That was eye opening.
Yes, that was a great piece. What else? What was the one thing that caught your eye or ear?
I love that when Scott talked about needing to tell the hard truth and being able to tell the hard truth, because those are two different things. And in order to be able to tell the hard truth, the other partner needs to be willing to allow the hard truth to be told, which to me means having grace and understanding and not shutting them down. So you need to be receptive to the hard truth. So it's a two-way street. So that was really important.
I think it may have been KC that said something similar, that one of their guidelines, standards, was that they always said the other person has to promise not to get mad.
Yes, I think that was Casey. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, and I don't know that I can ever promise I won't get mad.
But you can promise that you're going to listen.
Yes, and to try and maintain some
And I can promise that I'm going to listen, and not just hear, but listen and be respectful of, in my case, be respectful of the woman that I have loved for 30 years. And so, yeah, I can give you that grace. I can listen and I can hear. So I think that's incredibly important.
Right. And I think the other piece of that is finding however that works for you, because it may be, yes, I will listen and hear. And then at the end of listening,
I may still be pissed.
Right. And maybe say,
but then we talk about that.
We have actually done this before. The one person airs out what they need to say, and then the other person says, I need some time to think about this.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because then I need, like, if it was me saying my thing or you saying your thing and then me telling you I need time to think about it, that you have to have that grace also.
Yeah.
To go, absolutely, because you've been thinking about it for weeks or days or whatever it is, and this may be something that's sprung on the other
completely new for
person.
you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other piece too. But it's all about, again, communication and grace. And yes, but that was an excellent way to put that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else that they said? I mean, there's lots.
So one of the things that I found really fascinating, and it's something that we kind of have done a little bit, but not in any sort of measured and ordered way, is talking separately to the other couple with a man with a woman and man with a woman, and kind of getting a sense of how they are when they're apart and not just as a couple,
Right.
which I think was very fascinating. And we do that sometimes, but it's purely, accidental and organic. And logistically, I'm not sure that can always happen. But to the extent that it can, I think it's a really great idea because people are different separately. I know that I'm different when I'm apart from you than I am when I'm with you.
Right.
I am who I am always, but I'm better with you, I think. And so when I'm apart from you, I'm going to be different. I'm still the same person.
Right.
And I'm still authentic. But we are different when we're apart from one another. And so I think that was really an interesting and important piece of advice, that to the extent that you can, try to talk separately.
And for me, that came across as more of I want to get a good read on my connection with the husband. because we've had that before where it was like one of the very first couple we played with in New Orleans the very first year. It was a great connection. Everything felt good. And in that particular situation, I had seen him, but I actually had never spent time with him by myself because when we first met him, it was the three of us.
Right.
We just happened to meet him for dinner and then saw them in New Orleans, and we never had that one-on-one. And I bet you if we had, I would have realized very early on that there was just some awkwardness between us. Just didn't flow. But when the four of us were together, because you and she hit it off so much, you get caught up in that wave.
Right.
And I think he does too, especially if you're compulsive and you like to see your wife getting it on, and that makes you excited, and you're thinking about this is going to happen. So I can see where that would be really beneficial. And I was saying, we were talking about like, how would you do that? How can you like make that happen? And I said, well, for me, it would be pretty easy. I can just say to the husband, hey, I'm going to go get a drink at the bar. Will you join me? Because the woman may not want to join you walking off to a bar, but the husband should chime in and be able to say, sure.
And that
so
leaves
maybe
us
that's
then
my
to talk.
lead. Right.
Right,
And
exactly.
then that leaves you and the wife to, so we'll have to try that.
Yeah, I think that's great
I
advice.
think it is too. And I think that had we been able to do that a couple of times, we would have probably, and it's usually, for me, I usually end up having a problem with the gentleman from what I can recall on the experiences with couples that haven't gone well. It's for some reason the connection between he and I bet you it is because they're turned on by the fact that their wives are getting ready to get played with, and this is whole situation, and it's not going to be terrible because we all are nice and we're good together. But was there really a connection between me and him? And that will help me in the future, I think.
Yeah, that's a really excellent
We'll
point.
test that theory.
We will test that theory.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. I just think it's a great
Yeah.
idea. But I don't want to go into too much and kind of rehash all of it. We could talk for another hour and 15 minutes, but so many things, and you heard us even in the interview when we're talking to them, is like, yes, we say those things just a little bit differently, but those are exactly the same things that they say. But that was just an amazing, amazing interview. So go back, you guys, listen to it again, earmark, bookmark the spots that you found interesting. Sit with your partner and listen to this interview. It was so enlightening for us.
Yeah.
And like I said, we sat there and did it. We listened to it together the other night when I was editing it again. And I said, come listen to this with me while we're doing this. And it was great.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We will hopefully definitely have Scott and Michelle back. We are not going to tell you what happened after the microphones turned off. That is information for another time at another place. So I don't know. I think we alluded to there was some will they or won't they. I think we'll let that will they or won't they continue on. So we're not going to tell you what happened.
Okay.
That for a couple of years
Until
we catch up to this episode. But it was such an amazing day. And they are amazing people. So when you go to Caliente, and if you see Scott and Michelle, those are their names. Michelle works at the front desk. Scott is an ambassador, a greeter. He will be there. You let them know that you heard them on the Accidental Swingers podcast, and they will beam and they will just be so excited. Just ask them any questions because they are those kinds of people. And I have no problem saying that to the entire world.
Yeah.
If you guys go to Caliente and you see them, say, hey, Scott, Michelle, I know you. I recognize you from the Accidental Swingers podcast. And that's all you need to say. They will love it.
And they're amazing people.
They will. So that's
And you'll do yourself a favor by meeting them because
will.
they're just incredible, incredible people.
That's an excellent way to put it. Although I will have to say, everybody that we've interviewed there has been,
that's
you
true.
will be doing yourself a favor to meet these folks.
We are so lucky that we get to meet and become friends with such amazing people.
And I'm so excited to go back and hang out with them at some point in time too. We talked about doing that as well. Yeah, cannot wait. Cannot wait. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, you can find us on our website. You can find us on Instagram. We are at Accidental Swingers or at Myrina's Tristan. On Twitter, we are at Myrina_Tristan, but if you just search Accidental Swingers, it'll show up. And I think that's really it for now. So that's all we've got. I mean, that was a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot.
That was a lot.
There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
But yes.
Send us your questions, comments, or thoughts or ideas about this podcast too. Shoot me an email, and I would love to be able to kind of bring all that stuff together. We may end up doing a live broadcast with them.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll do some questions and answers and things like that.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were amazing, amazing people with just amazing stories and just a great outlook on this whole lifestyle thing. And again, one more thing, 7 years in the lifestyle, and they're still talking about it this way. So that tells me that we're on the right path, babe.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's still other things that are so much exciting things to happen and come
Yeah.
our way. And so, yeah, it's really cool.
It only gets better.
I know, it only gets better. Yay. Tristan's key phrase.
Yeah, I was looking for a place to slip that in.
Good job. You slipped it in.
I'm good at slipping it in.
Okay, let's call it.
That's time to call it. Yeah.
I think so. That's it. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody, and we will talk to you next time.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Love this episode of The Accidental Swingers? Pop on over to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to our show. And while you're there, you can leave us a review. You can also visit our website, accidentalswingers.com, to get show notes, read our blog, or find out about our next adventure. Join us next time and listen along as we bumble our way through this adventure that we call the lifestyle.